Good morning, and welcome again to the 2020 Women's Leadership Conference. Thank you all for hanging in there with us this morning. We certainly do appreciate you and appreciate you continuing to allow us to create and step into our new normal as we make the shift and the pivot from a live event in person to the virtual event. As I sat in the chat this morning, we did not allow COVID to stop us, and we will not allow technology to stop us either. We are continuing to move forward. So I am Lisa Anderson, founder and CEO of Novel Transformation Solutions. I am also the committee chair for this year's conference, and I also serve as a strategic business advisor and virtual CFO to small businesses, where I help the companies build profitable businesses and defy the impossible by scaling their way to legacy. And I want to say you all deserve a pat on the back, honestly, for hanging in there with us throughout this entire journey over the course of this last year, and then also this morning for showing up for your 2020 vision. We've all been through a lot this year. I mean, a whole lot, and nothing that we could have expected. But quite frankly, these things could be the answer to all of our prayers. Donna Hartley's keynote was simply amazing. Everything she said hit home as it relates to preparing for our future. But one thing that was phenomenal and profound to me were the questions that she asked herself in her plane crash. And that is the one question: am I happy with my life should I die today? And in this session, we are going to dig deep into that question. I have Sigman, who is going to facilitate the Embrace session this morning. She is going to help us identify and conquer all of our self-limiting beliefs. Ann is a C-level executive coach and partner with Clark Leadership Group, where she facilitates executive leadership groups and help women grow their businesses through education and peer recommendations, giving them the ability to think strategically about their businesses and to get practical advice on tactics and improve execution. Thank you, Ann, for doing this morning, and welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. So good morning. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered, how do you get from where you are now to where you want to be? Do you want to start that business? Do you want to enter the C-suite? Do you want to grow the business you're already involved in? Do you want to enter that long-term relationship? It could be that limiting beliefs are holding you back. Self-limiting beliefs have more of a negative impact on our lives than any other factor. And that's why we're here to explore them today. We're all rational people. We're not going to attempt to do something that we believe is doomed for failure. If you were believing that you couldn't lose weight because everyone in your family was destined to be overweight, why would you even try? We all carry around numerous self-limiting beliefs. They come from our experiences and help us to learn about and deal with the world around us. Humans learn, but many times we learn things that are inaccurate. Fortunately, we can uncover those beliefs that are holding us back, explore the experiences that have led us to those beliefs, and we can imagine and embrace new beliefs that are more empowering, that lead us to a more fulfilling and successful life. So that's what we're here to explore today. And we have chat where you can interact. We have Q&A at the end. So as questions come up during this session, please use the Q&A to put in any questions that you might have. And try to be really honest with yourself as we're going through and exploring self-limiting beliefs. So let me see what I can do to start. Okay, so we're having a little technical difficulty here.
Our theme.
Yeah. Where is it? I have a whole presentation that'll help guide us through this conversation. And it's disappeared. So thank you for being patient. Okay, here we go. So are we sharing? Are we good?
Still watching you,
Oh,
and you look fabulous.
thank you.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. So we want to identify and overcome our self-limiting beliefs. Let's see, clicker work. Space bar, no. Okay. So self-limiting beliefs are based on assumptions and perceptions that we have about ourselves and the place that we have in the world. They are holding you back because they're self-limiting. They're based in fearful and anxious thinking, and our keynote talked about fear and the power of fear. So we're taking this to the next level and really looking at those fears and seeing their source and seeing what we can do to overcome them. So how do these fears and anxieties manifest themselves? Well, it's anxious thinking. It's manifesting themselves. We do it with justifications and perfectionist thinking. It can be just the thought patterns. Our speakers talked about meditation and how we can change our thought patterns. I'm going to learn some more about that with this session. And they really show up as fears. Don't be afraid of your fears. They're not there to scare you. They're there to let you know that something is worth it. And it will be worth it to confront your fears because they're limiting you in achieving your goals. So what I'd like you to do in the chat as we're going through this is share some of your goals, share some of your fears, share some of the things you want to accomplish. Focus as we go through this session on what you want to accomplish and think through some of what we're going to go through to help you get there. So here's a number of very common fears. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of success. We want to start that business. How is fear of success holding us back? Fear of change, that promotion, that's a big change. What is that causing? How is that holding you back? Fear of emotional pain, fear of the unknown, starting that new business or taking it to a new level, total unknown, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. So we're going to put up a poll. I'd just like to hear from those who are attending where you feel that you've been held back by fears, where some of these fears may be holding you back and accomplishing the goals that you want to now. You have fear of the unknown, the ones I was talking about, fear of failure, fear of change, fear of rejection. They kind of go hand in hand. Fear of judgment. So fear of failure is really rooted in I'm not good enough. What happens if I am not perfect? It actually has some things that are rooted in perfectionist thinking. And with perfectionist thinking, we can be holding ourselves back. Fear of the unknown, talked about that. So what happens if I really don't know the outcome? How do I prepare myself for an outcome that I can't control. So fear of the unknown is really associated with control and having control over the world around us. And remember about self-limiting fears. They help us understand the world around us. Fear of rejection. No one understands me. I have so much baggage that I'm carrying around. No one can ever accept that. It's fear of rejection. You want to be accepted. You want your idea, your business idea, and what you have to offer to be valued. So these are very common fears, and we'll talk about how they can be rooted in self-limiting beliefs. Okay, stop sharing. I've tried this several times. I can't exit this poll. Are we exited? Okay, we're good. It's just still on my screen. Can I get rid of this? I just want to get rid of this.
Oh.
Okay. So how do our beliefs form, and how do they result in the actions that we're taking? So our attitude is really rooted in the beliefs that we have. And our beliefs control our feelings. And all of this gets jumbled up into creating our actions or our inactions. Our speaker talked about the power of thoughts and how they really can affect the outcomes in your life. So if you think about how the thoughts that you're having really formulate the beliefs you have, create the feelings that you have about your situation, your attitude about it, and your action or inaction, here's an example that I experienced from my own life. I was in a business, my first business was a partnership, and I wanted to exit that partnership after about 8 to 10 years. I kept thinking, I can't do this, because there were aspects of the business that my partner was responsible for, such as finance, sales, and I was responsible for operations. So how do I step out and start my own business when I honestly believed I could not sell? My feeling was I couldn't escape. I was stuck in the partnership. My attitude was, I'm stuck here, I'm gonna stick it out. And I stayed in that partnership for 20 years. What would it have been like? How would I have empowered myself more if when I wanted to exit that partnership, I could change that belief that I cannot sell to the belief that I'm trustworthy, that people trust me. And that's what I was able to do, is to replace that belief that I cannot sell with a belief that people trust me. And when I exited that partnership after 20 years, I could sell anything because I was trustworthy. Okay, keep going. So beliefs are formed in early childhood. They're based upon what we learn when we're very young to be able to navigate the world in order to feel safe in the world. And they help us to understand our place in it. They're shaped by the experiences from childhood that are given to us by our parents. They teach us the values that become part of us throughout life. We learn very simple things. If we hit our brother, well, we're told that, hitting is bad, and we're chastised for it. If we say please and thank you, it's rewarded. So being polite must be good. So these are really simple examples of how beliefs are formed. And there are much more deep experiences that we have in early childhood that form our deep-seated beliefs that really we carry into adulthood. As we grow older, these beliefs become more complex. We as humans look for ways to reinforce what we believe, and we discount things that are contradictory to those beliefs. So as we grow older, when we're going to school, our teachers, our peers, our religious institutions, our community, they are either reinforcing or contradicting those beliefs. But when it comes down to it, we don't like to be wrong. We as humans want to hold on to what keeps us safe and what makes us feel comfortable. So even when those beliefs are discounted, we still hold on to those from early childhood. So this is what makes them self-limiting, is that they're so difficult to get rid of and to replace with beliefs that are more empowering. We've used them to stay safe in the world and to understand our place in it. So they're very resistant to change. What worked for us when we were young, going to school, going out on our own, does not really work for us when we're adults, yet we still cling to those beliefs, and that's why they're limiting. The important thing to understand is that beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are based in that anxious thinking that we talked about earlier. They're reinforced by what we want to perceive in the world. They're reinforced by our perceptions, but they're not facts. They are a derivative of our thought processes and the things that we constantly reinforce in our mind. Think about what our speaker said. How by taking empowering statements, empowering questions, we can change our future. We can change our outcome. We're getting into some nitty-gritty here with looking at beliefs, because when we understand what's holding us back in those beliefs and understanding they're not facts, we can change them. We need to replace them with more empowering beliefs, and therefore we can set new horizons. We can set new goals for ourselves. When I talk about the example that held me back, I cannot sell. Well, I cannot sell, that was something that I created in my mind in my early 20s. When I think about what that really went back to, it was rooted in a childhood belief that I'm not likable. I'm simply not likable. I showed up at the school ground, there were all little cliques of friends and everything. I was there like a deer in headlights. Didn't really have friends throughout school, throughout the neighborhood. Our house was further apart from everybody else. I was a loner. So I really grew up with the idea that, you know, people just don't like me. There were one or two here and there. I had friends here and there. I wasn't just isolated. But still, if you think about I cannot sell and people don't like me, they go hand in hand, because the perception is that in order to sell, people have to like you. So this self-limiting belief, when I really explored it, it came from that belief in early childhood. And that was the root of it. So what I'd like to do is to talk about some very common self-limiting beliefs. And as we go through them, if you can say in the chat, oh yeah, that's me, you know, please interact with us. Let us know what's resonating so we can talk about them in more depth. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough qualifications. As an entrepreneur, what entrepreneur ever really has the experience or the qualifications to start a new business? What they have is confidence and determination. That confidence and determination overcomes any lack of experience, any lack of qualifications. Your LinkedIn profile does not need to have everything possible in it for someone to believe that you're capable of accomplishing something, whether it be that new business, whether it be that promotion, whether it be actually growing the business that you have. If you think of Mark Zuckerberg, he started Facebook, it was an idea. He didn't know how to run a company. He didn't even know, he invented a social network. It didn't stop him because he had the determination and the confidence to move forward. Someone else can probably do this better than me. We've all had this thought, especially if you're in competition in your organization, in your company. There's always competition in business. And there's always someone who is doing something similar or as good, if not better than you. That doesn't stop you from being able to find your competitive advantage. There's always a competitive advantage in any situation. So someone else can do it better than me can be that I'm more competitive than everybody else. A way to think about it differently. I'm too old or too young tells you there's a problem with that belief. If it can go either way, then how can it be true? And that's part of what you really need to keep saying to yourself is self-limiting beliefs are not facts. They're what we've adopted for ourselves that dictate our feelings, our attitudes, and our actions. So if you want to take a different career path, if you want to start a new business, you're really never too old or too young. It's really a matter of, do you really want to pursue that goal? And what do I need to do to pursue it? I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the money is real. But there's always ways to bootstrap a company, get funding. In my last startup, that's what we did. We bootstrapped it. We got friends and family funding, raised money from investors. And it was a matter of conveying the value of the product in order to get that investment and grow the company. So there's always ways to overcome that obstacle. I don't have the time. How many of us say that all the time? I don't have the time. I'm busy, busy, busy. I don't have the time is really a matter of priority. So what does that really mean? It means where are you placing your focus? Where are you placing your attention to achieve the goals that you have in mind for yourself? I don't have the motivation. We all suffer from this. Everybody does from time to time. We always get to a point where I just can't motivate myself to do something. Entrepreneurs may even seem to be a different species because they have so much energy, they have so much motivation. They're suffering from the same thing that we are, you know? They overcome it. They don't allow that to define their actions and dictate where they are taking their life and their goals. So here's all of those self-limiting beliefs. What types of feedback have we gotten in the chat from these types of self-limiting beliefs?
That a lot of people suffer from.
All of them, or just
different ones, you know. I don't think there's any, I don't think anybody's got the market cornered.
Well, some that came up was, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. That's one I put out there is lack of motivation. But for me, sometimes it's a measurement of my comfort zone and time to move forward.
Yeah. So what's holding you back? If you're not in your comfort zone, there's something holding you back. What fear is keeping you there, keeping you stuck, keeping you from moving forward? What limiting belief creates that fear? So let's move into how you can really uncover the sources of your limiting beliefs. And really, it takes self-discovery. This takes commitment. It's not something that's an aha moment overnight. To overcome self-limiting beliefs, you really have to look deep inside yourself, look at your subconscious, and find out root causes. We'll also talk about strategies that you can use once you've identified these self-limiting beliefs that will allow you to replace them with beliefs that are more empowering. You cannot eliminate a self-limiting belief without doing that. You really must replace it with one, as I explained. I can't sell, I'm trustworthy. I replaced that limiting belief with one that was highly effective for me. So this really takes some exploration. And most importantly, you need to do this exploration with taking down any barriers of blame or really looking at yourself in a negative aspect. This has to be an objective exercise. So what you want to ask yourself is a number of different questions and take notes as you're asking these questions. It's really just an exercise of exploration. You really don't want to presume the outcome. So look at it in terms of your goals. Were your goals realistic, or were they pie in the sky goals? If they were realistic, then what prevented you from accomplishing that goal? Was it something that, was it about yourself, or was it some sort of external factor that was causing you to fall short of the outcome that you desired? Was it a combination of both? Focusing on your behavior, what could you have done differently? Is there something that you could have done to create a different outcome for yourself? What were you fearful of? What were you worrying about? These are all very important questions, because remember, these limiting fears manifest themselves in anxiety. They manifest themselves in fearful thinking. We have a question?
We do.
Oh, okay.
And I think would be really helpful if you could address it in terms of not having enough experience or qualifications. When you have the education and the knowledge, but how do you formulate the words? How do you show what you have? It basically says it hinders me from growth and trips me up every time. I have the education and the knowledge, but how do I formulate it into words?
Well, this type of thinking is, there's a couple aspects to this. Part of it is perfectionist thinking, thinking that I have to be perfect before I can move forward with anything else. My resume has to fill in all the blanks. It has to be completely perfect. And perfectionist thinking can lead you to continuously go through that cycle of more qualifications and more experience, because ultimately what you're trying to accomplish, you have the belief, the limiting belief, that I'm not good enough yet. I haven't gotten enough experience. I'm not good enough yet. So in looking at this analysis and how to go through that, in perfectionist thinking, what about where you are and what you're doing is not yet good enough? So, in this exercise of looking at yourself and looking internally, you want to look at the patterns. In this case, the pattern is I keep getting more and more experience and more qualifications. So that pattern and that cycle that I continuously need more is part of what you would want to dive deeper into. And continue to ask yourself similar questions. These are just examples. Something else you can try is free writing. So free writing might be, well, if I accomplish X, then what will happen? Or if I don't accomplish X, what will happen? So this free writing sets your mind on a path to be able to really look at what could be holding you back. It may be also that you come up with really crazy, absurd, what you say in your mind, oh, that's really stupid. It's not. It all matters. It's all important. It all will lead you to understanding more about yourself and what those limiting beliefs might be. As I said, a lot of our beliefs are foundational to childhood. And in order to be able to understand what's limiting ourselves, how it's limiting ourselves, we really need to go back in time. We need to look at our early childhood experiences. Think about your upbringing, your parents or guardians. What values did they instill in you? What did they teach you about the world around you? Remember that many of our beliefs we formed in order to understand our place in the world and to keep us safe. So what about those early childhood years? What did it teach us about risks versus being safe, about being comfortable versus not being comfortable? What did it teach us about what's possible and what's not? What we're capable of and what we're not? Look at your past and your broader environment. I talked about my neighborhood, talked about school, your community, your peers. I mean, all of these factors have either reinforced your beliefs or you've chosen to use them to reinforce those beliefs. So this is where the time travel is really important. You really need to go back. And again, the important part about this exercise is that you take judgment out of the equation. It's simply a fact-finding mission. This is hard to do. So that's why it really has to be an iterative process so you can go deeper and deeper to learn things about yourself. One of the important things is to evaluate your reactions to circumstances. I said real briefly when I showed up my first day of grade school, I was like a deer in headlights. To this day, I can remember the feeling that I had when that happened. I can remember how I had no idea how I was going to navigate that playground, how I was going to integrate with the other people of school. That feeling is so deep and present, it's still there today. I can feel it. I have hairs raising on my arm. That's how strong the reaction was to that experience in early childhood that formulated such deep-seated self-limiting beliefs. So get started on this process, ask as many questions as you can, get a clear picture of both what's causing you to be unable to attain your goals and what in early childhood formulated those beliefs. So the next step is to put it all together. Our brains are wired to look for patterns and associations. That's what formulated the beliefs in the beginning. So in this exercise, you need to connect the dots. Look for the patterns both between the answers to those questions about why you're not achieving your goals, whether they're realistic or not, what's holding you back, as well as what experiences in early childhood, what values and beliefs were created there that may be contributing to this. So, it's a cause and effect and pattern association that you really want to explore. Again, continue this process, go through it reiteratively, learn what is holding you back, and then you can start to replace those beliefs with the beliefs that will empower you. So there are specific things that you can do to overcome these self-limiting beliefs. First, understand their purpose. What purpose? You know, if it's holding me back, does it really have a purpose? Well, it was there to make you feel safe and to know your place in the world. We brought up the example, someone asked a question about how they're working through and trying to build that resume that takes them to the next level. And I said, that really seems to be rooted in perfectionist thinking. And it may be how we were able to save ourselves from the pain and humiliation of doing something less than perfect, something that wasn't right. So understand the purpose. In this case, it's to save me from pain and humiliation. And then you can change it around. You want to question them. Is it valid? Is it useful? Is this to my advantage or my disadvantage? If it's to my disadvantage, how is that disadvantageous to me? If I went past that perfectionist thinking, if I started to go out into the world without having that complete resume, if I went for that dream job, then what would be the outcome of doing it or not doing it? Well, doing it, you're going to explore a whole new thing about yourself and a whole new venture in life. Not doing it, you're in that cycle of self-doubt and you're going to just continue to chastise yourself. You may have answers already. The thing is to question those answers, look for something new, and look towards using this process to reduce their power. We've held on to our beliefs, they've kept us safe in the world, they have a lot of power. So we must reduce their power. Going back to what our speaker said, empowering beliefs. Take the power away from what's holding you back. And she even said, one way to get past it is humor, to laugh at them. Humor will reduce the power of a self-limiting belief at any time. Make them absurd, make jokes about yourself. Just give yourself the grace to be able to look at yourself and not take yourself quite so seriously. In order to break the power of old beliefs, we have to replace them with new ones. We need to make new sense of the world, create the vision of the world that we want to have. So we need to turn around each self-limiting belief and replace them with new thought patterns, new ways of thinking about things. And that's how you will be able to replace old self-limiting beliefs with new, more empowering ones. So we need to retrain our brain. Meditation was one of the things the speaker talked about. There are a lot of techniques that we can use to retrain our brain. Remember that thoughts create our beliefs, affect our feelings, which create our attitude about things, which result in action or inaction. So we start with our thoughts, with positive affirmations, affirmations of what we can accomplish, affirmations of the new belief. The affirmation that people trust me. I looked for that in what I did every day. And it's just part of who I am now. So this is very important to refocus and retrain your brain to accept the new belief that you really want to incorporate into your life. It's a long process. It takes some time. This is not an overnight thing. I won't say that it took me 10 years to go from I can't sell to I'm trustworthy, but get inspiration. Look for people who have aspired to the goals that you're interested in, learn from them, learn from books or anything you can get inspiration from. You have work papers and tools in the handouts. I think they're being shared in the chat. Use them. They're a starting point for this. There's also kind of just these general questions that you need to ask yourself. What are some of the self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back? What is the source of these beliefs? Are they working in your favor or against you? We hold on to them even if they're working against us. If they're working against us, what would success look like by overcoming it? And use those beliefs that are really empowering as effectively as you can. There's another exercise in your toolkit about labels. I love this quote, labels are for filing. Labels are for clothing. Labels are not for people. Yet we all put labels upon ourselves. We place labels upon ourselves. Others place labels. They give us labels from their perception of who we are. So in the other exercise, as I said, I'm giving you practical ways to really overcome your self-limiting beliefs, is to write down all of those labels that readily come into mind. Just start by writing down all the labels. That's more of the free writing that we talked about earlier. But then go back and think about them. Again, are they positive or negative? You know, woman business owner, is that positive or negative? Depends on how your beliefs are affecting that. What's the source of that? Did it come from early childhood? Is it something that you developed as you went into your adult life? Was it coming from those around you and their perception of you? All of it is important because our beliefs are reinforced by the world around us. Are they helping us or hurting us? And do you want to keep it or lose it? So use these exercises to really look deeper. And you have techniques and tools to help you do that. Techniques and tools to help you replace those beliefs that have been holding you back. Beliefs that keep you from achieving your dreams. And become empowered with new beliefs. Use the techniques that both our speaker and I've shared here today to embrace the goals, embrace the vision that you want for yourself in your life. So do we have any questions from our attendees?
I mean, we've been answering as we go. So
Okay.
I think we're okay, but if anyone has any, this would be a good time. We have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions? I could make some up. The important thing really is to devote time to this effort. I mean, even the speaker, she said, I just started meditating and it really became part of my life. Self-examination really needs to be part of your life, particularly if you're being stuck, if you're stuck where you are and you can't reach the goals that you're really interested in. It takes self-reflection, it takes examination, and hopefully understanding the power of beliefs and how much they drive the outcomes in our lives will help you to overcome them.
So we got 2 questions. One is how do you jumpstart the process when you've been stuck for so long? And what's your favorite way to de-stress?
Well, I'd start with de-stressing because you really can't jumpstart the process without being in a good place. And our speaker talked about some of those things. For myself, it's getting out in nature. And I really learned to meditate in nature. And that was by simply placing attention from one thing to another in my environment. And placing attention is much different than looking at it. It's internally recognizing it. as opposed to mentally recognizing it. So this exercise of looking internally just at my external world allowed me to look internally at myself. So I wouldn't really try to don't make this a huge effort for yourself. Start by clearing your mind of the clutter and the self-blame and self-analysis in order to move forward.
And any tips to reduce the overwhelming feeling of trying to identify and change those self-limiting beliefs? So just that when you're that overwhelmed with the process or just with considering what you might find.
Choose one thing that you recognize is holding you back right now. I mean, we all have goals that, you know, we have 5-year goals, 10-year goals, I don't know, retirement maybe. But we all have these goals, and choose one thing, one little thing that you can change today. For example, we talked about perfectionism, and to overcome perfectionism, you may just simply purposely insert errors in what you do. Nothing that changes the outcome, because the outcome is what you're really focusing on, but insert one little flaw so that you can accept that flaw within yourself. And it works differently for everyone. You know, our speakers talked about the empowering questions. For me, it really is those affirmations. There was a time, believe it or not, when I wanted to lose 10 pounds. And rather than saying, I've got to lose 10 pounds, I've got to lose 10 pounds, I replaced that with, I am fit and svelte. I am what I want to be. So you can just start with simple affirmations like that. Really own the outcome that you want for yourself. Okay, we good?
I think we're good.
I think the schedule may have changed, Jean, I think.
We're on time.
Yeah, we're right on time, yeah.
Okay,
Way to go. And thank you.
thank you.
Yeah. We've got 4 minutes.
Hang on.
Still
There
on?
was a question.
Okay.
The Q&A showed up, I don't know. How does the perception of being an introvert or extrovert factor into the self-limiting beliefs? It seems introverts would have more trouble. That's probably because the extroverts don't want to talk, but just asking.
How you're made up really has little impact on the beliefs that we really own for ourselves. I'm an introvert, believe it or not. Now, on the I side of E, but still, how we're made up only affects how we function in the world. It doesn't change those beliefs. And, you know, how we're made up doesn't change over time. How we're made up, it was there when we were a child. But how we were made up really affects how we function in the world. Those beliefs that we took on and that we hold on to ourselves, it doesn't come into play. Okay. Other questions?
That was a great answer. That worked.
Okay. Lisa, you wrapping up?
Yes.
So that was fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you all, and thank you, Anne. That was
My
excellent.
pleasure.
You answered a lot of my questions. So we're going to, this ends our Embrace session for this morning. Before you leave the session, remember a couple of things. Number one, to download your certificate. So we've been placing a link in the chat. So make certain that you download the certificate. This is your only chance here to do that. Also, go to the landing page, and we will place the link in the chat for that as well, so that you can connect with the next session that will begin at 11:50. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll start our next session at 11:50.
Yep.
And we look forward to seeing you all in the next session. Thank you all for joining us this morning, and conquer those limiting beliefs. Thank you.
Great.